How does someone go from 2 minutes 10 pace to 1:32 pace over the course of a couple of years? In this video, we're going to have a look at a swimmer that I've worked with for a number of years and see what he's done to get his times down 30 to 40 seconds quicker than when he first started. Hi, Brenton here from Effortless Swimming. I'm a swim coach based in Australia, and what I do is work with a lot of people at clinics, camps, and through online coaching. And one of the swimmers who I've worked with our online coaching and who's also come to a clinic here in Australia, in Noosa, this swimmer is Prescott, and you might have heard him on our podcast in the last couple of months. If you haven't, you can find the link to our podcast below. Now, in this video, I'm going to show you the progression from what he went through to be around a 32 minutes 30 for his 1500 meter swim, which is about 2 minutes 10 pace, down to where he can consistently get down to the low 130s. And in terms of going for a fast 100, down in towards the 120s. So I'm going to show you through the changes that we went through and what some of those drills were, what some of those key focuses were that helped him make such a dramatic improvement over the course of around 3 years. Now, in this very beginning one, this is August 2018, what I noticed here when he sent in his very first video was that obviously head position was a bit of a factor here. The eyes were a long way forwards, and if you've watched our videos for a while, you know there's nothing wrong with looking slightly forwards, but we like to teach anywhere from 0 to 45 degrees. So keep the eyes in that range. Think of it as lengthening through the back of your neck, like you're trying to get your head away from your shoulders, lengthen out through here, because if you do look too far forwards, it's pretty typical to see a little bit of this going on, where sometimes there's too much of an arch through the lower back when the eyes come too far forwards. Now, if we get too much of an arch through the lower back, and it's not massive here, but it's not ideal. When that happens, it's hard to connect your core up with your hips and then sort of connect it with the catch and the rest of your stroke. And sometimes it can drop your back end. It can drop your hips a little bit if you do look too far forwards. So that was one of the first things that sort of stood out here. Now, the second thing that I noticed was the entry and reach. He didn't really have a reach phase in the stroke, meaning that when the hand entered the water, it entered fingertips first, which is good. But you'll see that where it finishes reaching forwards is down, all the way down there, super deep. Now, the problem with that is that if you don't get this full reach, you don't get this nice lengthening of your muscles through your shoulders and torso and chest and core and hips. And so then you don't get that contraction. You don't get everything working together. Plus, it's a very inefficient position to be in because that oncoming water, it's going to hit the top of the arm and it sort of slows you down. So it shortens your stroke and increases the drag a whole lot. So that was the sort of second thing that I wanted to focus on in the beginning. Now, the other thing I mentioned to him was the breathing. You can see that as he gets this breath, the eyes are looking straight up to the sky. And now we want to look straight to the side. All right, we want the breathing to impact the body position and the rotation as little as possible. So we don't want to turn the head too far. So there's a number of things sort of happening here, and they were the first couple that we worked on. So it's around 2 minutes 10, and then within about 2 weeks of joining, he had another race, and his time was around 28 minutes 30 thereabouts for a Olympic distance swim. So he basically went from 32 minutes 30 down to 28:30 roughly. For that swim, so it took 4 minutes off it. So if we skip to that view here, so this is December, this is where he was already swimming a whole lot faster. Now you can see those two changes did some pretty good things for him. Head position's a whole lot better here, so looking slightly down, lengthening the back of the neck, a whole lot better. And you'll see that now he's actually got some reach happening in the stroke. He's not just entering and diving deep. Particularly from this side view, you can see that here. So a whole lot better. And now the difference between this and the previous one, the stroke is much better connected. So looking back at this, you can see how there wasn't really sort of any connection through the stroke. It was just like the arms were entering, going down and then pulling through. And it just wasn't connecting up with the rotation of the hips or anything. And you can see here, there's very little propulsion happening. But now, because of that extra reach and better posture and head position, he was able to connect everything up a whole lot better. And often there's one or two things in your stroke that when we change them, then you can have these pretty significant drops in time. And this is what we saw in the very beginning, which was great to see. Now, looking at this video, you'll see that the breathing was still much too high, so still looking up to the sky. In terms of the catch, and we didn't sort of focus too much on this in the beginning, but the catch, the setup is pretty good through here. So this is a nice kind of high elbow position that he was setting up, but you'll see from here to here, see how shallow he goes? So the fingers are pointing right to the side, and he's just sort of slipped through the back there and finishes pretty short, a little bit short of the hip there. So that was one thing that we sort of looked at working on. Now the catch on the right side as well wasn't great. The elbow was dropping a bit. I'll show you on this side here too. So there to there, yeah, elbow is just dropping a bit. Not as effective as he could be. You'll also see with the body position, the hips and the legs are sitting reasonably low. So that was another thing that we just wanted to work on. And my feeling was that by improving his catch, not turning the head so far to the side to breathe would be two factors that would probably do pretty good things to help bring that up. Because when the eyes or when the head turns too far, then the shoulders rotate too far as well. And he was kind of losing his balance. The legs were splaying a lot. I don't know if you can see that there, but let's go to the front view because you'll see it here in this front view. When he goes to breathe, see how far his legs were kicking out there? Big sort of, a lot of drag happening there as a result of it. So that's one thing that can really drop the back half, because when you've got this big like parachute opening up behind you, increase in drag can really drop it. So I figured that and probably improving the catch were two things that would help with it. As well as we also sort of looked at just probably pressing back a little bit further. Some of these strokes were just a bit short. So let's continue on. Now we're looking at, so we've got December, so 150 pace. Now April 2019. So now down around 144 pace. Now you'll see here that he's starting to hold the water a little bit better. So the catch is starting to improve. And you'll see this fairly smooth path, particularly with his right hand more than anything. So the hand here, not a bad catch here. Has a good sort of in sweep towards the hip and finishes off fairly close to the hip there. So just better sort of constant pressure with that right hand. Now on this left side, he's still, you'll see here, crosses over. Hand does come under the body a bit too much. And so this is where we started to focus on. All right, we want to get rid of this. We don't want the fingers to point to the side of the pool. All right, we need them to continue to face mostly downwards. So keep that left hand out more, because you're really just kind of losing your balance and losing that hold of the water when the hand or when the arm does that. So that's 144 pace. But you'll see really traveling through the water a whole lot better here. So we're starting to get, all right, those the hips are coming up a little bit, you can see. Because the catch there, not too bad on the left. Right one there, starting to slowly improve. And you can see the heels are just breaking the surface every couple of kicks. So the other thing we sort of worked on was just bring your attention to body position as well. Now, in terms of getting your body up, there's a lot of factors there, or you're getting your hips up. But one of the main factors you also have is you've got your lungs here. It's full of air. So if you want to bring your back half up, you need to have a little bit of downwards pressure through the chest, because you can sort of lean on that, press on that to help bring the back end up. So that's another sort of factor you've got to use. But you can still see with this breathing, that's where most of that drop was coming, because see how far the hips are on the side there? See how much of a bow through the body he's got. So there was still quite a bit of room for improvement there, but it's these little 1% changes that really do start to add up. So now September just started to improve a bit more. You can see here with this left arm, now we're starting to get that hand pointing down, or fingers pointing down. So this is a much better catch position now on this left hand side. Saying 111 degrees. We want that to be 100 to 120 through the catch. So much better. Now still comes under a bit there. A bit too much of an in sweep, but still it's a whole lot better than what it was before. So we're just starting to get a much better hold of the water. And one of the things that we sort of worked on was constant pressure. So there should always be pressure on the water, left hand, then your right hand, and keep that pressure on the whole way. And so this around about now, this is when we're starting to, to work towards that constant pressure. You can see we're really starting to get it happening now. Now let's have a look through here, and you'll see like sometimes like those couple of things in the stroke do creep in. Like here, I'd say that the eyes are probably a bit too far forwards. So some of those things do start to come back, and so that's why like I'll look at it and say, okay, just make sure you keep your head in the right position and so on. Now, one thing I noticed here was that with his left arm, because he's trying to get this better catch, he was just going a little bit too shallow with it. Like here, he's too close to his body. He's too shallow. You're not going to get into your lats and your back enough if you're up too shallow. So what we had to do was go a bit deeper. But what you'll see here is we've got the pace at 139. Now, he did a CSS test, like a threshold test, and so his threshold pace was down to around 139 now, which is a really solid improvement. And this was just after the Noosa camp that he came to here in Australia. And you can see he just really started to kick on from here. And you'll see this left arm, that is a significant improvement with that catch. You can see how good that's looking now. Nice high elbow, holding the water all the way through. So much better than what he'd done before. And then that right arm as well. So that right arm, not quite on that catch, but there were a few sort of strokes on this right side, like there. Now we're starting to get into the high elbow position. You'll see the timing's a bit better too. Like he wasn't front quadrant at all in these previous videos. So if you look back at this here, right, the very first one, not that you can see it that well, but basically what front quadrant is, so if you're swimming a front quadrant stroke, it means that there should always be something in the front quadrant, which is this one here. So if you're swimming front quadrant freestyle, there should be something, or there's something in front of you. Now, not that you can see the arm out of the water, but you can see there's no way that he's front quadrant. So as he started to get down towards these better paces, you can see that the timing's a lot better. There's even maybe a bit too much of a catch up there with the hands, but much, much better with that timing now that he's a bit more front quadrant. And you can notice that difference in body position now that the hips, the legs are up a whole lot higher. All right, so the hips up there, heels up there, which is good. And still, like, it's not obviously not perfect, but a big improvement, and you can see that with the change in speed. Now, this is a really good one. Now we're really starting to focus on the stroke rate. So sort of initially around in late 2019, started to play around with the tempo trainer, the Finnish tempo trainer, and we were sort of, I think, starting off around 56 strokes a minute, 58, and up to 61. And 61 felt like he just fell apart. Now, in these videos, you can see he's swimming around, he started with 60, then 63, and then 66 strokes a minute, which I'll play for you here. So we're just starting to kind of get used to increasing the tempo a little bit. And you can see there's a lot more sort of purpose in the stroke, a lot more purpose in the kick with these faster stroke rates. And obviously that's a big factor on getting your times down. Because if you look at this here, like this rating compared to this rating, huge difference. So we don't want to neglect, or we don't want to forget about stroke rate, but with a lot of people, sometimes we just have to get the technique right first, and then we start to introduce faster cadences. Different for everyone, obviously, but that's the majority of people. And here you can see swimming, this 66 stroke rate, he's swimming around 132 pace. And as I said, like his fastest 100 when he's just going a sprint is 120 something. I can't remember exactly what, but really quick. So really impressive to see that kind of improvement. And as you're watching through here, you're probably saying, oh, there's still some things he can do. Like, yeah, at times maybe when he gets his breath, legs maybe coming a little bit far apart, and the legs drop a little bit there. But that's the stuff that we can now work on to continue to bring the times down. And I hope this sort of shows that with your progression as a swimmer, yeah, you might have some big jumps early if you're starting off above 2 minute pace, but that overall progression tends to be fairly, as you get more towards the pointy end of the field, those improvements are a little bit smaller and a little bit, sort of finer with the detail, and sometimes not as obvious either. Like a lot of times it's just sort of concepts that you might have in your head. For example, like one of the things that we talk about is you don't want to overpower the catch too much, because sometimes people rip too hard and then they end up just sort of slipping through the water. So sometimes just changing your perception around or thoughts around how you should be swimming and some of those beliefs, as well as obviously the technical changes here. And so when you do something long enough, you start to figure these things out, and you get pretty good at picking up when you don't when you're not doing something right. And so just after this January filming here, he said that his time, so he'd been back in the water because pools had closed and stuff, and his times just hadn't quite come down. They were about 4 or 5 seconds off per 100. And so I had a look at a recent video and saw that the stroke rate had dropped a bit, and there was something else as well. And so made those changes. He's back on track. And so sometimes you just need that little bit of feedback from someone externally to be able to help you sort of come back to where you should be. And we've had that fairly often with pool shutdowns and stuff, is people will take a few weeks to get back, and often it's just it's some of those things that they had worked on in the past. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and it's given you a good understanding of what some of these progressions look like. And if you would like to work together, we run clinics here in Australia in most of the capital cities. So I'll put the link to those below. You can find them at effortlessswimming.com. And I also work with people online. So for example, Prescott, and he's not from Australia. So he started sending some videos through the Stroke Analysis membership. Again, I'll put that link below. It's on the Effortless Swimming website. And so I work with quite a few people around the world to help them with their swimming. So if you've got an underwater camera, this is a great way to go. So thanks again for watching. Please subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And if you know someone who's looking to improve their swimming, if you can share it with them and just spread the word. I really enjoy working with swimmers and triathletes all around the world to make them better swimmers. And swimming's a learned skill. You can absolutely get better at it and faster at it. It's just a matter of finding the things that are relevant for you, and then just following that progression. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next week. We've got another video of another member who has made very similar improvements. So I'm going to come post that very soon, as well as our weekly Feedback Friday videos. So see you later.